A popular goal for many makeup artists is to get an agent. If you notice, the majority of well-known established artists are represented. There is this belief, there's this strong correlation between being successful and having an agent. But what does it really mean to be represented by an agency as a makeup artist? What are the pros and the cons? And above all, how and when is the right time to pitch yourself? Hi, I'm makeup artist Sophie Ono. And today I will cover a topic that is not too talked about: artist representation. As always, if you find this topic interesting, please give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. First, let's get clear on how agency work. Good agency get the artist in front of the client. They facilitate bookings and take care of the business side of things by negotiating deals, invoicing, collecting payments, etc., etc. Ideally, your agents are supposed to understand your career goals. They are a significant part of your growth, but they are not the final decision makers. What I mean is, when it comes to booking a job, the client is usually presented with different choices, with different makeup artists to choose from. And based on how aligned your portfolio is with what they're looking for, or even based on your own reputation, the client always makes the final decision on who gets hired. Earlier in my career, I believed that once you're represented, all the work would be knocking at your door and you would make it rain. That is absolutely not the case. It takes time and a lot of work to build momentum. Your growth doesn't just depend on your agency. It really is part of your responsibility. It's your job to keep collaborating with other artists and stay relevant. If you think about it, having an agent is like having a partnership. Both parties have to put in the work. Now, let's move on to the pros and cons, shall we? I think the most obvious cons is that agency take a commission percentage out of your bookings. It's usually around, I want to say, 20%. Now, not all agencies are created equal. However, the majority of them will, take a percentage of your pre-existing client. If you book your own job yourself, the agent will get a cut of it. If the agent finds you jobs, he also takes a cut of it. You get some, you lose some. No matter what, they'll take your money. Unless you have a non-exclusive contract, then you get to keep your money on the job you book. Now, the pros are that often in time, bigger brands, bigger clients prefer to go through agency to book makeup artists. And why is that? Because of credibility. A reputable agency has a roster of artists with elevated work. Also, do keep in mind that some clients already have existing relationship with the agency and they know they can be trusted. Another pro, as I mentioned before, is that agency take care of the business aspect by, negotiating contracts, rates, and chasing payments. So the question now is, how and when is the right time to pitch yourself? If you're very new to the industry and you live in a big metropolitan city like, let's say, New York City, it's going to be almost impossible to get signed with a reputable agency right away. It's important that you go through the learning phases first, that you work on your skill and gain experience. What helps is also building a trusting relationship with the agency by assisting the artists they represent. I don't know if everybody knows this, but sometimes agencies have a secondary roster which can be offline or online. If you take a look at some agencies' website, there may be a section called Emerging Talents. And oftentimes these emerging talents have assisted the agency's makeup artists and are starting to blossom. So the smaller jobs usually get referred to them. We all know that getting an agent is not easy. Unless you're very successful or even sign with another agency, you're in demand, that's when agencies start to notice you and start reaching out to you. But what about for the rest of us? When do you know you're ready to contact agency and get yourself on their radar? The first option would be by assisting the artist they represent. After all, it makes more sense for them to hire an insider, somebody they trust and are familiar with. The second option would be reaching out to agency and trying to schedule an in-person meeting. And of course, all of this has to be done at the right time. The right time is when you've been in the game for a while. It's when you have sharpened your skills. It's when the momentum is flowing. Also, very important, your body of work, your portfolio has to be up to par with the agency roster. Remember, your work has to impress the client. You have to be marketable. Meeting agents in person doesn't mean that you are going to get signed right away. In fact, it may take some time. During an in-person meeting, it's important to talk about who you work with, about your existing clients. Having a clear vision on your career direction is worth talking about. It's also equally important to get feedbacks on what you need to improve. And always remember to keep in touch and updating the agent with your work. Getting represented is a process and it's not always an easy one. And like everything else, it comes with pros and cons. Once again, being signed doesn't necessarily mean that you'll have a successful career. It's really what you put in it. With that said, this wraps up today's video. I hope it was helpful and I will see you next time.